Joseph Dopp, and I wrote a book called Gaslighting America, Stonewalling Citizens' Permissions. And this is about fighting for our sovereignty and our freedom. It does a whole bunch of exposing of the military industrial complex, the media industrial complex, the agricultural industrial complex, and the energy. There's a bunch of other complexes like that. There's basically 6 big corporations that run the world, and American politics are obedient to them. They're no longer accountable to the people at large. We don't even have a way to communicate with them through our representatives, because most of them are bought and have jobs with these companies afterwards. So most of us know this and are kind of disturbed by it. And especially I'm grateful that we've had the military industrial complex to protect ourselves and freedom, but the abuse of power and creating all these wars to create economies and all these things that I never wanted to be accountable for as an American. This is not how we set it up. This is not what the Constitution and the Bill of Rights are about. There's a whole bunch of CIA and FBI and all these other parties within the parties that create chaos to show up as a hero. So gaslighting America is just like that. It's a whole bunch of Stockholm syndrome commentary where the people who are beating us up are pretending to be our saviors, and then we get in this cozy relationship with them because our economy depends on it, and oh no, my health depends on it, and when they'll stop sending us food, and all these completely dependent things that an old school Little House on the Prairie farmer never needed. There's so much of the natural remedies that were within the land itself, as well as agricultural. You had your butcher, your baker, your candlestick maker, and everything that made like a little microeconomy that just worked just fine. They didn't really need other things. So the whole idea that these big governments, you need us, we are your saviors, and you need us, and we will tax you, and we will put the entire world on a subscription plan, which really ends up being the same thing as the whole world slavery that always was. There really never was a freedom experiment like America until America. The entire world was a slave state. People would go around and create groups that would control other groups, and by sticking flags in the ground, or by military, or just by wiping them out. And so they used fear rather than diplomacy and attraction to create their laws, and you had to obey or else, slavery. And then they would dole out whatever salt and food and whatever else they gave you to survive if they found you valuable enough. And so there's a group of people in the WEF, the UN, and the New World Order, they call them, for years. It's been growing for over 100 years as a long game plan of world domination, which, people say, there's no way that could happen because we have too many movies about that. They're doing it almost exactly the way these movies portrayed it, and there's nothing that we can do about it because we can't even communicate as a mass anymore, as a mass population. We are all stuck in our little algorithms, and they keep us that way. And to a group of friends, like I can watch Russell Brand and a bunch of other Republican or conservative people if I want to, and still, if they can keep us in pockets of 10 million or 100 million, it's still nothing compared to the need that we need to have to communicate as a globe against this one corporate company, which is BlackRock, Vanguard, and a couple other guys at the top. And they're deciding who gets to live and who gets to die. They've poisoned lots of people with the medical stuff, and then the remedy, and then there's so much evidence of the poison in our foods. The FDA has been paid off, and they allow all kinds of things that most countries would never allow. And even their big idea right now to control your own farming in your own yard speaks of their overreach and ultimate desire for controlling everything. Therefore, the destruction of the family, and so many of them, like the 7 men who rule the world from their grave, Kierkegaard, Freud, all these other guys, these big thinkers, who a lot of times on their deathbeds said that they were avoiding the biblical worldview and the accountability to God as a designer because they had sexual remorse. And here we have most of these, big corporation people so dark in their own histories. Not all of them are pedophiles. I wouldn't generalize that. Many of them are maybe even good Christian family men who are working for these companies who are just doing the job that they were trained for. But the people at the very top, they're evil. Their intention is for world slavery. I would argue that Bill Gates has killed more people than Hitler by far through Planned Parenthood and fake vaccines and all kinds of other things. The idea that he owns 80% of the farmland in America is scary, and a lot of people have noted for years it looks like they're planning to starve us, and it's not permitted or talked about much in mass media because they own it all. But the idea that we will become ultimately dependent on them very soon means that they'll give you an allotment of money and you'll be grateful for it. You'll own nothing and be happy. Everyone will be on a subscription basis. And, I think as long as we're comfortable, we'll kind of agree with that until the restrictions get so bad that you lose the sovereignty over your fathering your own children, you husbanding your own wife, being free to do the work that you feel called to do. You'll be called to do whatever they call you to do. Thus the term slavery. I mean, there's all kinds of things that we have lost freedoms in America simply through bad policy. And so while I might not be care for Trump and his personality, I really care for the policies that created our sovereignty and our freedom and our ability to vote out bad policy on smaller levels at larger levels. And the whole clearing the swamp means having a full exposure of all the payoffs that happen in big government, and their desire to control everything is really bizarre. So my hope for Gaslighting America is that you wake up and that we find some way to communicate as a whole again, that we find a way to each other's hearts and community, that like microloans to a small African community that was not treating each other well, like a little house in the prairie setting, that we can find our ways to do that with local farming and a restoration to small community care, because they've pitted so much Americans against each other with all the woke stuff and everything else that it is a global psychosis. And this is how Hitler got people to start killing their neighbors and rounding them up and sending them to places to be turned to ashes after being slaves for a while. So, and it's funny, the people at the very top who came from the Third Reich, are calling this the Fourth Industrial Revolution, which is really the Fourth Reich. This is the eventual completion of Hitler's plans to dominate the world, and he didn't have to do it as violently. He just did it through diplomacy, through owning the media, through our ignorance and compliance, and becoming dependent on them as our surrogate mommy and daddy. The whole lack of parental sovereignty in the structure, the separation of fathers from homes, which was incentivized a lot of times through our policies and through the Gates Foundation and all the subsidiaries around that. It was Bill Gates' parents who helped found, with Margaret Singer, Planned Parenthood, and they've killed more black babies. They don't care that there's killing babies anyways, but they've killed more black people and done more for the destruction of the black family than any other organization I can think of. I mean, they are the most abusive, global psychosis machine I've ever seen, and we're all kind of stuck in it right now. This is the matrix that is either going to, break us or make us, and both. Right now, it looks like they have us. There's no way for us to fight back, so they kind of have us. Little small education pieces like this and my books are my hope to wake up the sleeping giant America and find a way to communicate on a mass level. There's no way out of this unless we can communicate on a mass level. So I write this in a bunch of my books. My answer is to have an Elon Musk with a satellite system and give all 8 billion of us a cell phone where we can do a global vote, a true democracy, not a representative democracy, but every person's own perspective. That there's no way that they could have the power that we could overthrow the 1 million billionaires who are about to enslave us all if we all had a satellite phone that we could vote on, and a true group conscience where everybody's vote mattered and we went with it. I think that would show that there was goodwill left in mankind, and that the people who were trying to enslave each other would be shut out and pretty much stuck with, I think we would probably vote that they would get stuck with their intention for us. The people who really want freedom for everybody will say, okay, here's your camp and you can go do that to each other in this region, but you don't get to control the rest of us. That's the thing that, sovereignty allows. That our autonomy is crucial. So this is for love, not for this is for the love of God, for the love of freedom, and hopefully you'll get as much out of the book as I hoped you would when I wrote it. So love y'all. Thanks.